Welcome to Thank You Half Hour. I am your host, Tom Christopher Warren, and today I am absolutely thrilled to have Broadway star, TV star, just an all-around amazing human being, Douglas Sills, joining me. You know him from his Tony and Drama Desk nominated role of the Scarlet Pimpernel, and you know him from all kinds of other Broadway national tours. And now we get to see him on HBO's The Gilded Age, starring as Monsieur Baudin. Am I saying it right? Baudin? Yeah. Yeah. Douglas Sills, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining me. How are you, friend?
So good.
Yeah.
I'm still here, as the people that sing that song say. So, I'm healthy. What more could a person ask for?
I'm always asking for stuff, but you're absolutely right.
I'm afraid of rejection, so I don't ask for anything past that.
You're on the right side of the dirt, and that is something great right now. You have good holidays? Thanksgiving good?
Yeah, it was small and sweet. We tried something a little different. We decided to let someone else cook and catered it in, and tried that, and had a friend come over. We weren't in New York, but it was lovely. The sun was shining, and it was easy to take the dog out, and that was so special and kind of wonderful. So, yeah,
amazing.
It was great.
Amazing. So, are you wrapped now for Gilded Age for a minute, or when do you go? Where are you in that whole world?
We finished season 2 a while ago. Let me see if I can even possibly recall when we finished. I mean, I would guess, I'm terrible at this. I should call Celia. But many months ago, many. And that they decided they weren't going to air it for a while. And that decision falls to the network that's airing it, in this case, HBO, or what is now called Max. Then that network was sold, as many know, to the Discovery Network. And they decided. So it started airing a few weeks ago. And we have not been told whether there's a season 3. We sure would love to have a season 3. We fear that maybe our good fortune has run out. So if anybody's out there that likes the show, please let Max know that you love the show and you would like to see more ideas. I've been told that Julian Fellows, the writer, has already finished writing season 3.
Amazing.
So we would love to go back, but we're hopeful but doubtful, if you know what I mean.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to stay hopeful because I'm loving every second of it. I'm soaking it up like a sponge. I know I messaged you last night with some thoughts on this last episode because I'm filled with rage. No spoilers, but it's just so well written. It's so dynamic and fun. Visually, it's ridiculous. I can't imagine what production and post-production is like on that thing. It's enormous.
I mean, masterful.
It really is masterful. And then, one of the things that I want to ask you about is, what is it like being on set with an entire family of theater practitioners? Like, here you all are on this great TV show surrounded by these extraordinary stage actors everywhere you turn.
It's everyone's very grateful. Everyone's thankful, and there's a sense of family. Even though many of us don't know each other well, there's a sense that in the fierce winds of our business, we have a like background and have appreciated each other's work perhaps from the seats of the theater.
Yeah.
And there are hugs as if you're at a family dinner, as opposed to going to an in-law dinner where you might not know the family. So it's really wonderful. You get to talk to people you don't often get to talk to, and meet people that you've always wanted to meet. And that's pretty glorious. I think there's a wonderful sense of gratitude by everyone to get this work, particularly since most of us got it during COVID.
Sure.
Or didn't get it during COVID, but got it right before COVID. So had work as soon as we figured out or the powers that be figured out how to film during COVID, we were working, and that was an incredible blessing. So it was a real pot of gold at the end of a wonderful actor's rainbow.
Your set was really sort of on the front line in those early days of COVID that went back to work. What was that like?
Well, one of our producers was on the committee for the California governor that were establishing the guidelines for filming. So, he was there. I think it was our producer, David Crockett, and he helped create the guidelines. So we went back to work as soon as those guidelines were accepted. And it was very, very rigorous to protect everyone. And there were so many wonderful combinations that led to a beautiful aura on set. One was that we're all theater people who are always thankful for the work and eager to work hard. Many of the people were from trained backgrounds, and that gives people a wonderful commonality. And then there was this operating under a siege mentality because COVID was going on and no one knew when we were going back to work or how long we would stay at work or who was next or who could get it or could you work, or you didn't want to get anybody else sick. And then you were on location sometimes. And I got COVID in Newport. Well, I don't know if I got it there. I assume I got it there, but so I was sort of stuck in a hotel there. And they just had to change the schedule until I could work. So there were all these wonderful elements that made everybody eager to do the best they could to get there and to come very prepared. Yeah. I had an opportunity to be close with someone who was working in production on another show that had a very different thing going on set. There were a lot of performers who were new to the business and new to the success of television, perhaps. And there was a bit of youthful taking it for granted. And so people were not coming to work with the same eagerness. And it was just interesting to have those two experiences juxtaposed when we would talk about it. But we were just incredibly thankful. And, because of the way our show is, it has so many actors, but there are really pods of actors that you tend to do all your scenes with. So for me, I'm in the kitchen of this wonderful house. And so I tend to be with the same 4 or 5 actors. Yeah,
you're with Christine Nielsen and Cerverus and Celia. And who else are you with?
So I'm with Jack Gilpin, Guilford, another wonderful actor. May he rest in peace.
Yep.
He's our sort of senior guy. He's the butler. Michael Cerverus, Celia Keenan-Bolger, Kelly Curran was with us, but for those watching the show know that she has advanced to a different status in life.
Indeed.
And, Aaron Wilhelmini, and I think I'm missing some cook, chef. I think that might be it. But Christine Nielsen's in the other household kitchen. She's not in our kitchen.
Right.
So we tend to see each other all the time. And when we were on set during COVID, we'd be in these wonderful mansions in Newport that they had rented because all of our scenes in the kitchen were in situ, on location, in the kitchen of one of these wonderful mansions in Newport. Me?
Wow.
So all that stuff was done in a real kitchen there. And we would be held until our scene upstairs on the main floor of these glorious buildings. And they would create these little single plastic tents for us. So we were like Carnival meets Bedouin. We were all in these little see-through plastic tents with a director's chair in them. And then we would wave through and talk to each other, put a mask on and come out of our tent. It was just wonderful and bizarre and great.
It was like the Wild West. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were figuring out as we went, and they were incredibly careful with us. And we in turn made every attempt to be careful. They spent a lot of money. It was obviously pretty expensive to take all the precautions. Like only one of us could be in a van with a driver, and the driver was sealed off. I mean, it was like an episode of that movie Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, yeah.
It was fantastic, but it gave us a sense of, I don't know, wonderful. Where are we? And we're all together, these artisans who make something, crafts or cabinets, but we happen to make these scenes. And we just felt so lucky, so lucky. And there was just this incredible warmth, doing these really interesting things with period style. And there were so many interesting givens for an actor about the conditions, the time, how old you were, what your parents were doing, how did you get to this place. So it was a wonderful cornucopia for any actor, especially trained actors who trained in a classical style.
Did you know your characters switch when you first read the script?
You mean that I was really a woman?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
I did.
Did you? Okay.
I did. We all got together right before COVID and had a table read. Now, a table read on the Gilded Age is like, it's a giant rectangle with 50 actors, 60 actors sitting around reading the whole script. And it was pretty great. So yes, I knew. And it was an interesting thing because tonally, it was an odd thing for the show.
Yeah.
The way it was written. And on the day we were shooting it, it had been a very long day. It was the last scene. And one of the producers came up to me and said, I know this is going to go great, but we really, to be honest with you, we really have no idea how to do this. We weren't even sure we were going to include it. It's such a weird scene. And because of the serio-comic element, that it's sort of desperately serious and at the same time ridiculous, it was, how does this work exactly? What is the tone of this scene? How does it play?
Yeah.
And I think they were very happy. Ultimately, I took a stab in the dark about how I wanted to play it, and they went along with it. It sort of also informed, Tom, you walk in and the director, who's the producer, Michael Angler, says, okay, here's what I'm thinking. And you walk into a room and it's not at all what you were thinking. You thought it was going to be done over here in a wide space. And suddenly you're in this little room and he says, I'm going to put the camera right here. And so the first time the camera's going to be, and I thought, oh my God, that's not what I was, you practice it and you think it's going to be there and you're going to have a big space and you're going to sit like that, and now he tells you the camera's right here. Wow. So you can't even go, well, you don't even have that much room, right? So the camera, and then he says, we're going to go in tight. I'm like, if you got any tighter, you'd be in back of me. He's right here, right? And so so any theater instinct you might have had, you've got to, let go of, that might be kind of like, none of that, nothing like that. It's all internal, as anybody who watched it can tell. So it was a fun transition to make. And I did it in partnership with Howard Samuelson, our dialect coach, who was very specific about the kind of French and then the kind of American to use. Yeah. So it was fun. And then when you're on set, Michael says, if we take this out or add this, can you do that? So, it's you're always a juggler on set, and happily, and then you're juggling 3 pins and an orange, and somebody throws an apple lit on fire in. It said, just keep going. I'm going to throw this in, and so it's great fun, and scary. And I had one of the most memorable moments of my career. I'd been filming up there for a few days, and my very first days, I wasn't very pleased with what I was doing. It was us getting used to each other, and it was me getting used. I had a coach for the culinary stuff, a period culinary chef.
Fabulous.
So he would tell me, you wouldn't use this knife, you wouldn't use that hand, you would chop this way.
Oh, wow.
I had a dialect coach. I had the script supervisor who would tell you, this line is actually this. And then the director would come in too and say something. So I was getting notes all over. When you say ham sandwiches, Douglas, it's am sandwiches, and you're giving me a little too much H. And this is between takes, right? And you're carrying a giant roast pan with 2 crown roasts in it, and I mean, there was so much going on. So I wasn't crazy about how it began, but that big scene where I change or do the change happened towards the end, and I was very nervous about it and how it was going to go. It was a very difficult switch to make, believably on camera when the camera was so close. And I did it once, and the crew applauded.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Never happens. Never has happened since. I haven't seen it. And I was like, wow. And I got chills go up the back of my neck. And it was amazing. Now, you had to do it 15 more times.
Sure.
So if you got lucky with the tear coming down, whatever, you better be able to push that out again like a Play-Doh machine.
But you're right. The tone of that scene differed from much of the other episodes, and I don't know that it would have played as well with a different group, a different company of actors, because every one of you in that scene and surrounding that conversation handled it with nuance and humor, and it just sailed. And I don't know that it would have without you. Really, really remarkable work.
Thank you. I think there's a great camaraderie between us. We're very eager to support one another in any way we can. We are all aware that our home life is on stage. Yeah. And and we all have various degrees of television and film experience, but I think many of us feel that theater is our home. And so this is a little bit of a different place for us, and we're very supportive of one another.
That's great.
One very famous actor came up to me after the read-through, and she was like, am I the only one that thinks I'm going to get fired? Like, I'm going to get fired.
I think that every job, so.
Right, exactly.
You and I did a free benefit together. I thought I was going to get fired from it. We weren't even paid.
Everybody should get fired once in their life. It's a good lesson. We had an interesting element. You say that group of actors was unique, and of course any group is, but another element that's unique for us is oftentimes a show is written for the actors. As the writing staff sees the actors working, they begin to write for them, for the intonation, for their sense of comedy, for their style, for where they see the character going. So there's this symbiosis between the writer and the actor. However, in our case, the season's written before we ever started.
Right.
Julian had written the entire season. Now, there was room to change things if it had to be changed, but there's so much work that goes into everything from a simple period prop to costumes to a milliner's hat that it was difficult to make changes. So we didn't get that symbiosis. We had to melt ourselves into Julian's vision.
Interesting.
And that was unique.
Yeah. When do we get to see you on stage again?
I'm not sure. Nothing's coming up right now. Right. I had a wonderful experience recently.
What was that?
A week ago, 2 weeks ago. This group called Master Voices, led by a wonderful musician and director named Ted Sperling, asked me to do the lead in a production of The Frogs.
Yes.
The Frogs is a piece that was written by Stephen Sondheim, originally with Bert Shevlov in 1974, and was done in a pool at Yale. Nathan Lane got his hands on it in 2004, I think, and said to Stephen, I'm going to stretch this out and make it into a full thing, and would you write some more music? So he did, and then Nathan did it at Lincoln Center.
Yep, I remember.
And so this chorale of Master Voices and Ted decided to do it with Nathan, and they used Nathan to narrate sections of it so that they didn't have to do all 2.5 hours of it. So it was a 90-minute version of The Frogs with me doing Nathan's part.
Amazing.
With Kevin Chamberlain as my slave and Xanthias, and Mark Kudish played Hercules, and Peter Bartlett did his original thing playing Pluto, the king of the underworld, and Chuck Cooper was Charon, the guy who steers the boat on the River Styx.
Yes.
And Jordan Donica played Shakespeare, and Dylan Baker played George Bernard Shaw.
Oh my God.
It was wonderful and remarkable and intense and very fast, as those things often are. We did it 3 times, and it was a wonderful way to be on stage. But nothing that I'm aware of currently. Hold on, let me think. Nothing coming up.
Those concerts, audiences don't know. They see the finished product. They see these magnificently talented people do what they do, and they don't see behind the scenes like that. Doug and I did Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol together for then the Actors Fund of America, now the Entertainment Fund. Written brilliantly by Tim Pinkney and directed by Carl Andress and music direction by John McDaniel. It was remarkable, but it's rehearsed in an hour and a half. And you're holding the book, but you don't want to look at the book. And so the expectation is you're not going to look at the book, but you might need to look at the book. And then suddenly you're there and you're in costumes. Costumes. I don't even know my character's name. And there's choreography, and the audience sees something thrilling, and everything leading up to that is just panic-inducing.
Yeah, it's just cortisol. It's just sheer cortisol and stress. And this was very much like that. Books in hand. And Nathan kept saying, I would turn to Nathan because on top of everything, I'm doing his part in front of him, right? And he's like, just use the book. Don't worry. And you're trying to get off book. And the songs are not simple things.
Right.
It's something. Right. And right. So it was challenging, but fun. The audience really strongly responded to it. I told my friends, don't come. I said, this is really an odd piece. It's really for theater nerds and someone who loves Sondheim. It's
niche.
Yeah. And just the opposite. People were like, we're never listening to you again. This was so much fun. This was so easy to understand. We followed it, So it was sold out, before we even began performances.
Sure.
So that was the last time I was on stage. And nothing that I'm aware of currently. I've done some workshops of new pieces.
Great.
But I don't think any of those are imminent. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by talking about it. I did a workshop that was really interesting 3 weeks ago. Of a new musical based on a novel that won the Pulitzer a few years ago called Less, Less.
Okay.
And it starred, it was written by Doug Wright and Jason Brown.
Wow. And
we just sat in a room with us and the producers, and, we worked on it for a week and then did it. And that was it was the first time they'd heard it. They wrote it together over Zoom. And that was a tremendous, that's sort of my favorite thing, is to do something while it's being constructed.
Yeah.
Or when someone's looking for a new way to do something old. So there are a few of those recently in my life, but I have not heard that any of them are imminent.
Selfishly, I hope it happens soon.
I did a workshop of Hercules, but Schuler did it. Hensley.
Yeah, at Paper Mill or
at Paper Mill, and now they've changed tracks and changed directors, and now they're going to Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's in my future.
Sure.
But those kinds of workshops, as you say, are highly stressful, but really challenging.
Yeah.
Just great all of your faculties, all of your capacity to stay centered and do the work. Give them something interesting, but let them see what they wrote. It's a real challenge.
I will never forget in Magoo, again, we had a week of rehearsal, and then we got there and we didn't know there were costumes until there were costumes on the day of it. It was all and it was so fun, and the full orchestra, and John McDee and Doug was leading this company, playing not only Mr. Magoo, but Scrooge, and has all of this dialogue and songs and song and dance, and he's holding the script. And you got there, you came out for the performance. I guess we might have done 2 shows. You got out for the first show and you came out without your script. And I was like, he's not going to do this without the crutch. You got to be kidding me. And you were word perfect. And you just had the audacity to be off book when the rest of us were just trying to stay upright. And it was a great lesson.
I must have. I love that you remember that. I don't, but I'm sure what I did was I said, I know I can make it from page 1 to page 6. And I'll put my script over here. I know I have to walk over there at the end of page 6, and I'll pick it up. And, I'm sure it was like one of those, because I had to move around so much and put this arm in this coat. And
And that cast, just remarkable. Those things are fun. Yeah. They're stressful. And you come to the other side of it and you're like, that was amazing. But
amazing.
The 20 hours leading up.
People that see it sort of, they get the sense of electric energy coming across them, that these people are, we're panicked.
Chaos.
We're doing brain surgery and we've never even had gloves on before, let alone. So they get that feeling. And there's this wonderful crucible that forges those actors together for the rest of their lives. Yeah. As you remember it, and you're like, oh my God, and you can sit together at a bar and go, remember this? Oh my God, were we insane? Why did we agree to do that? And there's just such a privilege and so remarkable about it.
My dance partner in the Fezziwig scene was Jessica Vosk, who, had just left Wall Street an hour earlier and done a couple of Broadway shows, and I remember her saying to me, I'm gonna push some doors open. I watch me, and sure enough, remarkable.
There she is. Yeah,
incredible. Doug, we're at half hour. I have to wrap things up, but I am overjoyed to just see your sweet face and to hear your stories, and just to get some tea on Gilded Age has been great because I love it.
It's amazing. There's some juicy stuff. I don't know when this will air, but there's some juicy stuff coming up. We had some juicy stuff this past week, and
we did.
Woo!
We did.
Yeah.
I cried. I just sat there and cried. It's good.
When he asked her to marry him. Oh, sorry, everybody. Never mind.
I know.
I got weepy.
I know. I didn't see it coming, but
to their credit, really, to the credit of those people. Yeah.
Well, thank you for carving out some time for me. It's a pleasure to see you and hear your stories. I adore you.
Oh, my love.
Back at you, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Talk soon.
All right, Tom, that's a half hour.
Thank you, half hour.
Boxland Media. Think big.